Do I really know you? その理由をお前に話したところで何も変わりはしない。だがもう一度ゆっくり話をしろ。
お前と話すことなんてない。
俺の目的はキライア先生の成し得なかったこと。さっき言った。
feel as if I'm outside looking in to something very beautiful. Is there any room in there for me?
その理由をお前に話したところで何も変わりはしない。だがもう一度ゆっくり話をする。
お前と話すことなんてない。
俺の目的は平井先生の成し得なかったこと。さっき言った。
be in limbo. Reporting from downtown Los Angeles, Brigida Santos, RT. All right, well, we have to take a quick pause, but when we come back, we'll talk about whether we could see some Brexit-style fallout after the election. Our Ed Harrison is on set to discuss. And then RT correspondent Bianca Fascini is in Berlin with the latest on what people in Europe are saying about this historic U.S. election. Stick around.
Coming up, the polls close in the swing states of North Carolina and Ohio. Stay tuned.
I'm a trial lawyer. I've spent countless hours poring through documents that tell the story about the ugliest side of corporate America. Corporate media refuses to talk about these issues.
The conduct by this company was deplorable.
I'm going to paint a clear picture about how disturbing, how corrupt corporate conduct has become in modern America. These are stories that no one else can tell. I'm Mike Papantonio, host of America's Lawyer. Question more.
Earlier today, President Obama
Senate Republicans previously stated that the component responsible for poisoning people in Flint.
There's always hope.
That's what goes on in politics. What are women supposed to do? Here's something else we know.
Between the U.S.
Lawyers
and
at the
Cuba.
ACLU have already some degree of loss in business.
It's a huge difference.
Following the announcement, oil prices.
Nobody's talking about this story because it's garbage.
Real, genuine, and significant change.
Welcome back to Election 2016 Worldwide, hosted by Larry King and Amira David.
All right, it is 7:30, folks. More polls are closing. Let's go to Simone Del Rosario with the latest.
Thanks, Amira. Well, if you'll remember, we have already called 3 states. We have Indiana and Kentucky for Donald Trump, and Vermont has 3 electoral votes. And so that is going to Clinton. So 19-3. We have just called West Virginia. I'm waiting to hear who that ended up going to. I imagine that that would have gone to Trump. So West Virginia has 5 electoral votes. So once our map updates, we're going to have 24 electoral votes for Trump so far and 3 for Hillary Clinton. As for those polls that closed at 7:30, that included West Virginia, which has gone to Trump. You can see it's red right here, right now. North Carolina and Ohio also just closed. Those, however, are huge swing states, so it's going to take a while to get numbers on those. The remaining states that have closed polls, but we still haven't gotten those numbers yet, include Florida, Georgia, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. Vermont has been called, and Virginia. So we'll be giving you the latest numbers as they keep coming in. Right now we have Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia for Trump, 24 electoral votes for him. Vermont right now for Clinton, that's 3 for her. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Simone. Again, we're waiting now to get the call, the official call on West Virginia. We are also waiting on North Carolina and Ohio, 2 swing states. Everybody is keeping their eyes on those 2. Now, late last month, Donald Trump made news when he said he would pull a Brexit ×5 in the U.S. presidential elections. Keep in mind, millions of Britons switched off their TVs on Thursday night, June 23rd, fairly confident that the status quo would remain. But by Friday morning, the polls were proven wrong. The UK had voted to leave the EU, and it's led some to question whether Trump could actually do this. Could he pull off a Brexit-style upset? That's the question we're going to toss to our expert panel right now. Let's bring in Peter Schiff, founder of Euro Pacific Capital, and also Ed Harrison, RT's very own in-house financial analyst, and also my esteemed partner in crime on Boom Bust. Ed, I want to start with you because you were in the UK when Brexit happened, and I get the sense that you weren't as surprised that they did actually vote to leave. But tell me, when we hear these comparisons, these parallels, do you buy it?
I don't really buy it in the sense that when we look at Brexit, the disparity between the votes it was a lot less. We're talking about 52-48 or 51-49 coming out versus here. I think that really Trump has to run the table in order to get it done. We were talking off camera before about Florida. You know, really there are very few combinations that get Trump to where he needs to go. So really, I don't think that it's going to happen. And most people see the chances of that happening as less than it was in the UK.
Peter, do you compare it to Brexit?
Okay, so Peter can't hear us.
Oh, I didn't. No, I did. I didn't realize that he said Peter. Hi, Larry. How are you?
I said Peter.
Well,
Peter.
it could. Yeah, you know, it could be like a Brexit moment. And, you know, if this election were a referendum on the economy, Trump would win in a landslide. But, you know, there's so many other issues that are clouding people's decisions. But look, this recovery, this Obama recovery, for most people is actually worse than the recession that we're supposedly recovering from. The middle class has been eviscerated. Nobody has been lifted out of poverty. And I think Donald Trump is striking a real chord. And I think the media, which still has been enamored by Obama and believes in this phony recovery because they believe their own hype, I think they may be underestimating the outrage that the average American feels, and they really want to change the dynamic. You know, Barack Obama promised change, but delivered more of the same. And I don't think people are going to buy the empty promises from Hillary, where she's going to succeed where Obama failed. So there could be a sentiment, a vote for Trump that is maybe not being picked up in the polls, and that might be a similarity to what happened in the UK with Brexit.
So, Peter, how do you explain Obama's popularity?
Well, I mean, I think that Obama is popular. People want to like him. He's a personable guy. But, you know, the economy itself is a disaster. You know, so people, I think, are separating the economy from Obama. Yeah, they like him, but he didn't do a good job. He didn't deliver on his promises. And, you know, why do you think Hillary Clinton had such a hard time in the primaries? Because so many Democrats were frustrated with the last 8 years that they were willing to go for Bernie Sanders and not Hillary Clinton, because she was more associated with the Obama failures than he was.
Well, let's talk about markets, Ed. What we do remember happening in the wake of Brexit is the pound dramatically falling, markets going crazy. What do you think we're in for after tonight's done?
Yeah, so I mean, two scenarios here. So we're looking at Trump or Clinton. If Clinton goes, it's the status quo. I think that's largely priced in. You're not going to see a huge hiccup one way or the other. If Trump were to win, then we would see a somewhat Brexit-like scenario. But when people talk about Brexit in terms of the scenario would happen, really you have to separate the immediate short-term impact of the vote from the longer-term impact, the medium to longer term in terms of the actual economy. Because really when it came down to it, we're back to where we were in everything except for the currency. You know, the stock market is back to where it was before. Bond rates are back to where they were before, or even higher, because the economy in the UK is doing better than people expected as a result of Brexit. So if Trump were to actually win, really you would see a hit. But what's the impact over, say, the next 3 to 6 months?
So are you saying that you think the election is really less consequential than, say, real economic indicators?
Exactly. The real economic indicators that we're going to see in the next 3 to 6 months, and you can look at oil as the crash in oil by 15% is much more important than the election over the medium term.
And Peter, do you agree? I mean, do you think it will ultimately be much more about the economy than this election?
Well, in the long run, of course, it's about the Fed, because it's the Fed that's the only thing propping up the inflated stock market. But, you know, the traders have decided that a Trump victory is bad for stocks and good for gold, and a Clinton victory is good for stocks and bad for gold. But, you know, I don't believe that. I mean, the knee-jerk reaction may reflect what everybody believes. But when the dust settles, it is not good for the U.S. economy, for business, or long-term for the stock market to elect a liberal Democrat who is promising more government, higher taxes, more regulation. That's the last thing that the economy or business needs. But right now, this is a bubble. It's all about perception. And right now, the perception is a Trump victory is bad for the markets and good for gold. And we'll see what happens. But, you know, I think even if Clinton wins, even if there's a knee-jerk celebration in the markets, I think you want to sell into that, because this is not good for the U.S. economy. And long-term, the stock market has a lot to worry about.
Ed, what do you see happening in terms of the Fed and interest rates?
What I see happening basically is the Fed wants to hike interest rates here, okay?
December, right?
In December. They've been saying they're going to hike. First of all, if they don't hike, then they've lost all credibility, any credibility that they already haven't lost. So they want to hike interest rates, and the data have been good enough for them to be able to do that. You know, the unemployment number is down to 4.9%. We're looking at 170,000 jobs per month. That's good enough, and so they're going to do that. Only if Clinton wins. Now, if Trump wins and we see the market fall out of bed, we see the dollar fall out of bed, the bond market go haywire, then you might see the Fed actually hold on in December.
Really?
Yeah.
Peter,
I disagree. I don't think the Fed wants to raise interest rates. If they wanted to raise them, they had plenty of opportunity to do that a long time ago. I think they're stalling. I think they're making up excuses because they realize that they can't raise interest rates without putting another hole in this bubble. They don't want the stock market tanking like it did in January when they raised interest rates last December. So I think they want to keep talking the talk, but they can't walk the walk. They want people to think the economy is strong enough for a rate hike, but not actually raise rates and disprove that.
He doesn't think the economy is strong enough. For what do you think?
He and I pretty much, we agree that the economy hasn't been strong enough and for the Fed to be able to do it. Where we disagree is I think that the Fed really does want to raise interest rates, but they just haven't been able to do so.
Okay. And really quickly, Peter, you mentioned gold, but where should people be right now? I mean, where do investors go in this cloud of uncertainty?
Well, I think you should be long gold going into the election if you're a trader, because I think that a Clinton victory is already baked into the price, and even if Clinton wins, I think it'll be a buy the rumor, sell the fact in gold, which would be buy gold on a Clinton victory. There may be a knee-jerk spike up, but I think that you would want to sell into it. On the other hand, if Trump wins, it's going to be a huge run in the price of gold. I mean, the markets are ready for that. They're all ready to hit the buy button if Trump wins, and you could see a $50 or $100 pop in the price of gold in dollars. That's basically what happened to gold on Brexit. Certainly in pound sterling terms, I've never seen a move that big in the price of gold if you wanted to measure it in pounds. So I think that would be a good trade. But long term, I think gold goes up no matter what. And in fact, in the long run, I think Hillary is even more bullish for gold than Trump, because I think her policies will be a bigger disaster and lead to more inflation, more money printing, more deficits. And that's why people buy gold as a hedge against currency debasement and inflation. And we're going to get that in spades.
Peter and Ed, thanks so much. You know, there's certainly a lot going on in different parts of the United States this election day, but the rest of the world is also watching closely as Americans determine the next president, especially in certain parts of Europe. For more on that, we're joined now by boom bust Bianca Fasci, who is currently in Berlin.
Bianca, what's the latest over in Berlin? Did government leaders have anything to say at the end of the day?
Yes and no. I mean, first things first, I can start off by saying Chancellor Angela Merkel is certainly not giving an endorsement to either candidate, but Trump and Clinton have both received endorsements at different levels of government in Germany. They've received, or starting off with Clinton, she's received endorsements from different, from municipal and regional leaders. She's received endorsements from German leaders at the EU, and she's also received endorsements from certain party leaders. Trump, on the other hand, has only received one endorsement from Germany. You can probably guess who it is. It's the leader of the Alternative for Germany Party, which is their anti-establishment type of party here. Even though Clinton has clearly received more endorsements here in Germany, Germany overwhelmingly wants her to win the White House. It's still very soft endorsements. They want her to win. They want her in the White House, but they're still very cautious about what her administration would look like.
Why is Angela Merkel not endorsing?
Well, she's not only not endorsing for the U.S. presidency, she's not endorsing anyone right now, and that's because of her stance on the refugee crisis. It's been incredibly controversial. Germany has accepted well over 1 million refugees at this point, and a lot of people here do support that policy. They're supportive of bringing refugees in and helping them, but there's a lot of people that also are very anti-refugee, and that's led to an increase in the AfD and their popularity. And as a result, people here in Germany who are even members of Angela Merkel's party aren't inviting her on the campaign trail. And that, as a result, has led her to withhold a U.S. presidential endorsement who most people are assuming would be for Clinton. And Merkel herself is actually up for re-election next year. She's expected to win that, but AfD is also expected to break the threshold that they need to gain seats in Parliament. So next year, we're going to probably see a very politically divisive Germany, and because of that, she's being very cautious right now, and she'll probably continue to play it safe next year.
Bianca, what sense are you getting on the ground over there as to why leaders are so afraid when it comes to Trump?
Well, the leaders here are afraid for the same reason that people here are afraid of him. They don't like what he has to say about trade. They're terrified that he wants to back out of NATO, and they also are still left with very sour impressions about his comments on women and on minorities. And, you know, if you look at the past 8 years, President Obama has had a few missteps with Europe, but ultimately he's very favored here. People like working with him. And when it comes to Clinton, they know her from her time as Secretary of State. She's familiar to them. Trump is very unpredictable to them. In fact, that's probably the most common term I've heard to describe him here. And the thought of working with a Trump administration just is, they can't even fathom it. So they like Clinton because they know that they can work with her at this point. They have no faith that they could actually work with Trump if he were to win.
Thank you, Bianca. Bianca Vashini reporting from Berlin. Time now for a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Coming up, we got a very provocative look at the mainstream media's coverage of Russia during this election. And then our guy, Ed Schultz, sits down with us to discuss some of the other issues voters face in this election beyond the choice of president. Stick around.
Who's going to be the 45th president of the United States? Stay tuned to Election 2016 Worldwide on RT.
For decades, the American middle class has been railroaded by Washington politics. Big money corporate interest has drowned out a lot of voices. That's how it is in the news culture in this country now. That's where I come in. I'm Ed Schultz. I do the news on RT America. I'll make sure you don't get railroaded, and you'll get the straight talk and the straight news. Question more.
People have got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
The American people deserve to know answers.
What difference at this point does it make?
We must guard against the military-industrial complex.
The Cold War is over.
We shall never negotiate.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima.
To know war is to know that there is still madness. Yet, we do what we must.
The only thing we have to fear is... I am officially running.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted.
We do stand on the edge of a great new era.
What happened to the American century? What happened to America's ideal of progress?
It is a time for pathfinders and pioneers.
If you're an entrepreneur right now in America, the last thing you want to do is take risks.
You'll see that whole streets are just closing down.
It's beyond life.
Americans are finding themselves in a desperate situation.
Here we are, naked in front of the world. It's a real tragedy.
Welcome back to Election 2016 Worldwide, hosted by Larry King and Amira David.
All right, we are joined now by a man who needs no introduction whatsoever. We're joined by Ed Schultz, host of The News with Ed. So, Ed, we've got a lot going on. We've got polls closing. Tell us what we know and how it's really rounding out your expectations.
Amira and Larry, great to be with you tonight. It's going to be an exciting night. The way I see it right now, the night is setting up to be very big for Hillary Clinton. If Florida is any kind of indication, with the record turnout that they have had in Broward County and in Miami-Dade, we're looking at 72% of the vote turnout in Miami-Dade. Those are big numbers. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump so far tonight have exceeded the Romney turnout and the Obama turnout in 2012. That is a great sign for Hillary Clinton. The Hispanic turnout has been terrific. Now, the African-American turnout was lagging in the last couple of weeks, but that was shored up over the weekend. On Sunday, they had a big push, souls to the polls, and it made a difference. And so there's a good turnout across the board in those two counties, and that is going to be critical for Clinton. And let me give you a couple numbers. Obama won in 2012 by 74,000 votes in Florida. Broward County delivered 255,000 votes. Had that county had not come in big, he would not have won. Those same kinds of things are going to play out tonight in Florida unless the Panhandle can somehow save Donald Trump, and I don't think it's going to do it because the history doesn't match and the demographic doesn't match up. Broward County tonight is going to be looking at possibly 20,000 more votes, Democrats, from 255 to 275 on turnout. And a lot of that is going to be from the Hispanic vote. And the irony of it is that the very people that Donald Trump attacked on the day he announced he was going to run for president
are coming out.
Seems to be the very American folk that are going to keep him out of the White House.
I lived in Dade County for 20 years. Broward County was always Republican. When did that shift happen?
Well,
Broward County was Republican.
Yeah, it was. But there has been a big Democratic shift in that, basically because of the immigration fight. The Republicans have said no to everything for years on immigration reform. And Larry, my theory on that is that they've been so anti-union, they're afraid to bring in new Americans into the fold and give them citizenship because it'll drive those workers right into unions, and that's exactly what the Republicans want to do, is kill that union base across the country because that really is a great piece of infrastructure for the Democrats.
Do you think the concern for the African-American vote can officially be put to rest? Because there was less concern about the Hispanic vote, but a lot of concern about the African-American vote. In fact, Obama was out, over the weekend, and I saw a story in which they were asking supporters there. They said, are you here for Hillary Clinton, to support Hillary Clinton, or are you here just to see Donald Trump? Are you here just to see Barack Obama? And so many of them said Barack Obama, Barack Obama. I mean, how difficult was that?
Well, historically, he's probably the best surrogate anybody could ever have. I mean, look at this team that Hillary Clinton has had. The Obamas, both the president and the first lady. Bill Clinton. I mean, how much more artillery do you need on the campaign trail? I mean, great credibility across the board on that. And Hillary Clinton, I think, in the last month, really found her voice about where she wants to take the country. In the midst of all the negativity that was going on, she clearly stated where she wanted to take the country, and that was something she didn't do early on.
Is Obamacare a big issue in Florida?
Yes, Obama is a big issue in Florida. He's got immense credibility.
I said Obamacare.
Obamacare? Well, you've got a Republican governor there who's not happy with it. You've got a state legislature that's not happy with it. But if you listen to the Obama administration, there's going to be a 9% increase nationwide of people signing up for the Affordable Care Act in 2017. There's a lot of propaganda out there saying that the Obamacare Act, the Affordable Care Act, is not good for Americans. But when you start taking insurance policies away from sick people, you're going to have some political trouble.
How do you see the Senate going?
I think the Senate's going to go to the Democrats.
Really?
I think the race to watch tonight is Deborah Ross, the challenger, in North Carolina against Richard Burr. That's one to watch. I think Wisconsin, Ruth Conniff is going to join us later tonight. That's a big Senate race. Johnson trying to defend his seat against Russ Feingold. Who
wants to go back.
Who wants to go back, who was a big Fourth Amendment advocate, and his voice left the Senate 6 years ago, and I know the Democrats really want him back.
What are we looking at for Rubio, by the way, in Florida?
Rubio, I honestly believe, from what we've seen tonight demographically, the heavy Hispanic turnout is going to play to his favor. I think Rubio is going to be okay.
All right. Let's leave it there with Ed Schultz. Ed Schultz of the News with Ed, thank you so much for that.
See you at 8 o'clock.
You'll be here. You and Jesse Ventura.
And also
Anya Parampil. That's right.
Don't get into a fight with Jesse Ventura.
Oh, no. Jesse's a good... I'm going to tell you something. There's more truth coming out in Jesse Ventura in 30 seconds you get out of these other guys in 3 hours.
Don't get into a fight with Jesse Ventura.
Before we go, Larry, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit more. Pick away. So what I want to ask you, I mean, you often ask a lot of guests on your show, are you an optimist? Are you a pessimist going forward? I want to turn that around on you.
Good question.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist going forward?
The best answer I ever had to that question was given to me by the great Edward Bennett Williams, one of the great lawyers, the modern-day Darrow. He passed away some years back, but he's a great friend, a brilliant mind. And I asked him, Ed, are you an optimist or a pessimist? And he said, of course I'm a pessimist. I'm smart. It's hard to look at this election and be an optimist, I think. Well, when you see the country in this kind of state and the way this election run, are you an optimist?
I am. I believe in America. I believe that we're going to be able to I believe that we're going to be able to get through all of this legislative turmoil, and I think the Republicans have learned a big lesson in the last 8 years. I really do.
Okay, well, let me ask you, I mean, for third-party voters out there, for those people who feel politically homeless, what do you say to them? Can they be optimistic going forward?
I think we're ready for a third party in America. Someone wrote